They told me he died before I could even walk. I was 2 years old when the accident happened. According to my mom and grandma, he was driving late. There was a storm, and a semi hit his car. He died instantly. A blessing, they'd whisper, whenever I asked about details. He didn't suffer. That's what I was raised to believe. That I never got to know my father because fate decided to take him too soon. Growing up, I clung to a single photograph like it was holy. It sat on my bedside table, the edges fraying more every year. He had kind eyes, thick dark hair, and one arm wrapped around a tiny baby me. That photo made me feel like I hadn't just been abandoned in this world without a father. Like there was someone, somewhere, who once held me and maybe even loved me. Mom never dated again. Never even talked about it. Anytime I asked too many questions, she'd go cold. Like a switch flipped. "You don't remember him," she'd say flatly. "There's no use digging into pain that can't be undone." My grandmother was softer, but even she tightened her mouth when I pressed for details. The story never changed. There was no funeral I remembered, no grave we visited. Just the photo, the myth, and silence. Still, he haunted me. I wrote letters to him as a kid, shoved them under my pillow, convinced they'd travel somehow. I imagined what he'd be like. Would he have taught me to ride a bike? Would he have come to my dance recitals? Would I have turned out different? I won't lie. Somewhere deep down, I always felt like something wasn't right. Maybe it was the way people flinched when I brought him up. Or how Mom once slipped up and said, "He doesn't deserve," before catching herself and pretending she meant someone else. Or maybe it was how none of my official documents mentioned him. My birth certificate had a blank space next to father's name. But every time I tried to make sense of it, I shut it down. Dead is dead, right? That changed last year. I was 23, helping Grandma go through old papers after a health scare. She had me sort through a box of documents she kept tucked in the back of her closet. That's when I found it. A manila envelope labeled, "Legal, do not destroy." Inside was a custody order. My name was on it. So was my mom's. And then, at the very bottom of the page, a signature that made my stomach twist. Jason R. King. Under occupation, it said, "Alive and present." I stared at that page for what felt like hours. I didn't tell my mom. Not yet. I needed more than a name. I needed a face. A truth. So I did what any modern orphan would do. I opened Facebook. I typed in his name. And there he was, smiling, wearing a #OneDad shirt, with 2 kids on his lap. And I swear to God, he looked exactly like me. Couldn't breathe. I stared at his profile, my pulse pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Same crooked smile. Same thick eyebrows. Same angular jaw I'd spent years resenting in the mirror. His skin even had the same uneven tone as mine. I knew it instantly before I even looked at the name. He wasn't dead. He was alive. And not just alive, he was living, laughing, holding 2 kids on his lap in one photo, a woman kissing his cheek in another. His bio read, "Husband, father, dog lover, living life one day at a time." Not a single damn word about a son. Not me. I scrolled. Dozens of pictures. Vacations. Cookouts. Videos of him at his daughter's dance recital, coaching his son's soccer team. There was one where he was holding a beer, grinning at the camera, saying, "Wouldn't trade this life for anything." I felt sick. That night I sat in my apartment in the dark, barely blinking. The photo I kept of him on my nightstand, his arm around baby me, mocked me. I thought it was sacred. I thought I was holding on to someone taken too soon. But he hadn't been taken. He walked away. Or worse, he was pushed. I couldn't confront my mom yet. I wasn't ready. I needed confirmation. Proof. So I started where all secrets go to rot, old documents. I remembered a stack of files my grandma kept locked in her hall closet. I drove over the next day. She looked surprised to see me, but let me in. Said she was just about to make tea. I didn't bother with small talk. I asked about Dad. I watched her face drain. "Why?" she asked, her voice already brittle. "Because I found him," I said. On Facebook. She dropped the mug she was holding. She didn't deny it, didn't try to spin a new lie. She just sat down and stared at the floor like it had the answers. Your mom didn't want to hurt you, she said. She told me he was dead. She was scared, she whispered. He left when you were a baby. He said he wasn't ready to be a father. He didn't want to stay in the state. She begged him to stay, to try, but he packed up and left. That destroyed her. So, she told you what she wished had happened. She told you he died. A lie that big? That casual? She said he died in a car accident, Grandma. I know, she said, ashamed. It got easier to say it than to take it back. It got easier. That's how they justified robbing me of a father? I left before I said something I'd regret. That night I dug deeper. Court records. Archived posts. I found an old thread of messages between him and someone tagged Karen W. She used to babysit me. I just want to know how he's doing. I'm not trying to take him. You had your chance. He's fine. He doesn't need you confusing things. He's my son, Karen. I mailed letters. I called. I hired a lawyer. That was from when I was 6. I messaged him. Hi. I think you might be my dad. He replied fast. Is your mom's name Dana? I said yes. He sent a photo. It was the same one I had framed on my nightstand. I never stopped looking for you, and all I could think was how much of me was built on a lie. I met him at a gas station. Yeah, I know. It sounds pathetic. But where do you meet the father you were told died before your first birthday? Starbucks felt too casual. Park felt too cliché. He suggested something low pressure. Said we could just sit in his truck and talk. I drove there shaking. My palms were so sweaty I had to keep wiping them on my jeans. I pulled up beside a silver Ford with rust on the edges. And before I even got out, he was already outside, standing in the lot like he'd been waiting his whole life. He looked older than his photos, tired too, but the resemblance was undeniable. It was like looking at the ghost of myself 20 years from now. When our eyes met, I could tell he recognized it too. Jake, he said, my name in his voice. God. It did something to me I can't explain. I nodded, couldn't speak. We sat in his truck for almost 2 hours. He didn't try to hug me, didn't rush it. He just let it come. Told me about the early days, how he and my mom were barely 20, how the pregnancy wasn't planned, how they tried to make it work but cracked under the weight of real life, how she told him to leave if he wasn't ready to be a real man. He left, but he came back, tried calling, showed up at our apartment and got the door slammed in his face, hired a lawyer, filed for joint custody. She told the court I was unstable, he said quietly, that I had anger issues, which I'll be honest I did back then. I was 22 and didn't know how to be a dad yet. But I wanted to try. I begged her to let me be in your life. And the court? I asked. She never showed up to the final hearing. Custody defaulted to her. After that, she changed her number. Moved. I didn't know where to find you. He pulled out a shoebox from under the seat. Inside were letters. My name on every envelope. I opened one. It was dated when I was 7. A birthday card with a dinosaur on it. Inside, hey Jake, I hope you're having cake today. I don't know what your favorite flavor is, so I'll guess chocolate. Love, Dad. I bit my lip so hard it bled. I wanted to hate him. I did. It would have been easier if he had abandoned me. But he didn't. He tried. He failed, maybe, but not because he didn't care. Because someone made damn sure he couldn't reach me. When I got home, I didn't sleep. I stared at my ceiling, replaying every moment from my childhood. Every time I asked about him. Every time Mom gave me that pitying look, stroked my hair, and said, "He's in heaven, sweetie." I felt like I'd been raised in a cage of made-up stories. My entire identity was built around the idea that I was fatherless, that I had to be strong, self-sufficient, independent because there was no one else out there who wanted me. Now I had to ask, what if that strength I built was actually trauma? What if the walls I put up weren't armor, but scars? I didn't know how to talk to my mom about it. I avoided her calls for 3 days. Every text she sent made my skin crawl. Finally, I replied, "We need to talk. And this time, I want the truth." She responded with 3 dots that never turned into a message. I guess she knew what was coming. I walked into her kitchen like a stranger. Felt smaller than I remembered. Maybe I was just seeing it with new eyes, without the softness, without the stories. The fridge still had magnets shaped like little coffee cups. The counter still held the fake fruit bowl she never dusted. But everything felt off. Like a stage set where the actors had finally broken character. My mom sat at the table, hands folded like she was already waiting for judgment. "You found him," she said before I even opened my mouth. I nodded. She exhaled like the weight of 23 years had finally crushed her lungs. "I didn't want to hurt you," she started. "No. You wanted to control the story." Her lips trembled. "He left us." I slammed the shoebox on the table. She flinched. One by one, I pulled out the letters. The birthday cards. A picture of me at 2, drawn in crayon. He must have copied it from the one photo he had. "He didn't leave. You cut him out. You told the court he was dangerous. You changed our number. You moved." Her eyes welled up. "You let me cry on Father's Day while you lied through your teeth." I spat. "You let me grow up believing I was some kind of orphan. Like that would somehow hurt less than the truth." Tears ran down her cheeks, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or fear of being exposed. "You always said you did what was best for me," I said, voice low. "But I think you just hated that he walked away from you. You turned your heartbreak into my origin story. Jake, you buried him while he was still breathing." She broke then, fully. Her shoulders shook. I was angry. I was alone. He said he needed time, and then he was gone for months. Panicked. I told myself if I just shut the door tight enough, it would all go away. And when you asked, God, Jake, when you asked, I didn't know how to open it again. "I was 5, I shouted. 5. All I wanted was to know where I came from. And you looked me in the eyes and said, 'He's in heaven.' You made me light candles for a man who was alive." Her face crumpled like a house folding in on itself. "I didn't know he kept trying," she whispered. "I thought he gave up, that he didn't want you anymore. And if he didn't, then maybe it was easier for you not to know him at all." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "You decided I didn't deserve the truth." We sat in silence. Eventually, she tried to reach for my hand. Pulled away. "You're not the victim here," I said quietly. Then I got up, walked out the door, and didn't look back. Not until I was halfway home, shaking with rage and grief and something I still don't have a name for. Something like mourning. But it wasn't for the dad I thought I lost. It was for the life I never got to live. I didn't talk to my mom for 6 weeks. Not a call. Not a text. She tried at first. Left voicemails full of cracks and apologies. Sent photos from when I was a kid. Like some scrapbook of guilt would fix the holes in my memory. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't pretend like everything she built around me wasn't a mausoleum made of good intentions and bad choices. And the thing that hurt most? She still didn't really admit what she did. Not all of it. She kept saying she was scared. That she thought she was protecting me. It wasn't an apology. It was an excuse with mascara running down its cheeks. I didn't want excuses anymore. So I spent more time with Jason. Yeah, I call him by his name sometimes. Not Dad. Not yet. That word still feels stuck in my throat. Like I have to earn the right to say it. Or maybe like I'm not sure who I am if I start calling someone that at 23. But we hang out. He took me to his garage. He runs a small auto shop. Introduced me to his wife, Melissa. I'd half expected her to hate me or feel threatened. Instead, she hugged me like I was family. Said she used to pray for me. That she'd seen the box of letters. That she knew my face before she ever saw it in person. His kids, Lily and Max, are younger than me by a decade. But Max already started calling me J-Bro. And Lily asked if I'd come to her piano recital. I did. Sat in the back row and cried like an idiot while she played Claire de Lune. Sometimes I hate how easy it feels to belong there. Like I walked into the wrong house my whole life and just found the one that actually smells like home. But it's not perfect. There's a weird guilt I carry now. Not just for the time lost, but for feeling angry at a woman who raised me, who worked double shifts, who kissed my forehead when I had fevers, who, for all her flaws, loved me in her own warped way, the kind of guilt that whispers, if she hadn't done what she did, would you be this strong? I saw her once since everything came out. We met at a cafe. Neutral territory. She looked smaller, older, like someone who finally stopped carrying a boulder and now didn't know what to do with her hands. She said she missed me, said she was in therapy, that she knew she messed up, that she hoped one day I could forgive her. I told her I didn't know if I could. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She nodded. I don't expect to be forgiven, Jake, she said. I hope you know I did love you, even if I got it all wrong. That part was never in question. I always knew she loved me, but now I understand that love can coexist with harm. That someone can hold you close while planting seeds of absence you'll harvest for the rest of your life. Sometimes I catch myself staring at family photos on Jason's fridge and wondering what I'd look like in the ones I missed. Would I be smiling? Would I be holding a fishing rod? Would I have learned how to fix engines before I learned how to shave? There's no way to get those versions of myself back. But I'm learning, slowly, to let the grief live beside the gratitude. To let the truth ruin the story I was told so I can finally start writing my own. Some days I still wake up wondering if I imagined it. If I really spent 23 years mourning a man who was never dead. If I really lived in the ruins of a story someone else wrote for me. Because when a lie is told long enough, it becomes part of the architecture of your mind. It buries itself so deep, even the truth has to fight to breathe. I keep the box of letters in my closet now. Not because I want to forget, but because I want to remember without bleeding every time. They're proof that someone out there never gave up on me, even when the world told him to stop trying. Proof that I wasn't unlovable. I was just unreachable. I still see Jason. We're not best friends. It's not some fairy tale, but we're trying. We go fishing. We talk about work. He helped me change my brakes last month and didn't once make me feel stupid for not knowing how. He never pushes, never asks for more than I can give. Sometimes I wonder if that's guilt on his end or just who he's become. Either way, I'm grateful. He's the kind of man I could have looked up to. Maybe one day I will. As for my mom, we're in this weird limbo. Not estranged, not close. We text sometimes. She sends me recipes I'll never cook and memes that don't quite land. We haven't talked about that day again. I think she knows I'm still holding parts of it in my mouth like glass. I don't hate her. I really don't. But I don't fully trust her either. And that's a harder thing to admit than any betrayal. Because love without trust is like a bridge you can't walk across. It's just scenery. I've started going to therapy. Not for her. Not for him. For me. Because I needed to know where the cracks were. Needed to understand why I flinch at kindness. Why I expect abandonment like it's my birthright. Turns out, healing isn't about fixing the past. It's about refusing to let it write your future. Someone once told me grief isn't about what we've lost. It's about what we never got to have. And I grieve every version of my life I was never allowed to live. The birthdays with both parents in the room. The awkward school plays where he would have cheered too loud. The little moments, him teaching me how to shave, how to drive, how to forgive. I'll never get those things back. But maybe I can build something new in their place. Something real. Not built on stories. Not made of shadows. Just me. Standing in the middle of the truth. Still bruised, but finally whole.
If you made it this far, you're officially part of the drama. Subscribe for more, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done?